industries are coming to Nigeria for investment, foreign direct investment. They are seeing Nigeria as going to be stable because dollar can now be predicted now in their own way. You know, a lot of things can be predicted. So they are talking in the sense that things can now be predicted. And you agree with me, actually, that's how it's supposed to be, where everything is based on demand and supply. But the fact just remains that you can't, some of the policy are premature for Nigeria economy. You know, before you can say, yes, we want to float the naira, you must have effective exportation and effective production that will come to balance and give you the equilibrium that we always say in for. So they are looking at with the fact that, yes, foreign direct investment, they can also predict, and perhaps we will be able to pay our foreign debt, because that's where we have to look at it very well. If Nigerians get much more, because if you recall that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said they have even realized up to 1 trillion with this
subsidy saving, yes.
Exactly. So that shows that we can now have maybe good record in terms of repaying, servicing our loans. That's where they are saying, because they are saying that if we don't do that, we'll not have enough money to service our loan, and possibly we'll go cap in hand begging for more loans. And I think that's the perspective they are looking at it from.
So in a way, are we doing their biddings? We're doing the bidding of IMF, the World Bank?
If you ask me, this is what they have been asking us to do all this while. So we are actually doing their bidding. But and looking at that, Nigeria is going to pay for that. You will agree with me that Nigeria is not the same that we used to have. A lot of things has changed. Life pattern has changed. People in where I work in my office, people who have decided not to be going home every day. So now you go home 3 times and you sleep in the office 3 times. It's because of the cost of transportation is way too high. So a lot of things has come into play. And if you look at even Naira floating too, it's not even helping. If you check the dailies today, the manufacturer has only this quarter, they have gone to borrow about 1.8 trillion to survive their business. Look at that alone. It shows that there is problem that government need to come into it and do a lot of things. The Keynesian theory will now have to come into play now.
Indeed. Now, so now you'd say we're doing the bidding of World Bank, the IMF, and other international monetary organizations at the expense of the local economy. Don't you think that we need to adopt reforms that are peculiar to Nigerian economy instead of following what some of the developed world have used?
Right, and that's why we are saying that we need to come and work with our own way of solving problems. And as I said, most of the decisions are premature. You know, before you decide on economy, you must look at the pro and con. If you do this, what happens? If you do this, what happens? I must tell you, from my own point of view, this government have to reverse some things they have done. Example, they want to float the naira. I assure you they will still come back to create a kind of leeway for oil and gas and manufacturing sector. Because if you don't come to their rescue, they will all die. They are going moribund already. They will all die. So this government needs to come. So you must consider your economy, the level at which we are being ravaged by insecurity, where our produce is not coming out as expected. The grain they have in the silos, they said they should bring it out. By the time it's finished, what happens? How do you balance the market? So economy must always plan for shock absorber, not only by having foreign reserve, also by making sure that even produce, you know, you plan everything. A good example, government has came out and said we want to give you palliative, and one of the palliative is that we are going to have 5,000 acres of 500,000 acres of land, and it's beat my imagination that how can you achieve that even in 3 years? One, who owns the land? Is it the state or the federal government? You know, you can get that land possibly in Castina.
But if you are looking if you look at the Land Use Act,
right,
the land belongs to state actually.
That's what I'm saying. So if the land belongs to state, how will federal government just sit down without engaging these people and said yes?
Probably maybe there's negotiation going on.
The only thing you can do is that let the state condition each state that each state give us also number of produce this year. You give perhaps if you even want to negotiate with state, I assure you it won't be less than 2 years for that negotiation to have. And where do we have that level of? So I think they need to go into more thinking and look into this thing they are looking at, because to really cultivate such land, perhaps you have to do soil tests. You know, you have to let me even shock you the more. Now we are in August. Before you can start cultivating most crop now, it will be February. And if you cultivate in February, it simply means by August you start harvesting, right? So now I expect that you should look at the items that can be do, maybe some produce that we can achieve this period and focus on that.
There are actually some produce that can actually grow within 3 months.
That's what I think they should look at. Not that you say they will.
Perhaps that's what the federal government is looking at.
And they also said it's going to be all year round. You know, where is the irrigation process? I can only say in some northern, that's where we have irrigation. On the south, I have not seen such. So we need to work about what is possible. So, and that's where consultation. President Tinubu said he's going to consult Nigerians while he's in government. So you will also recall that most of those policies are policy that has been done in a rush. So they need to, perhaps when they are coming, I must tell you this.
Don't forget the state of emergency on food security.
Yes, when will that stay? That's what I'm saying now. When the president is coming, I expect with that period they have, they should have said this is our plan for agriculture, this is our plan for industry, this is our plan for service economy, this is our plan for manufacturing sector. They are still saying it's still coming up. When will that come up? Until you have holistic plan, not that cut and join or you do it in a haste. We don't have a proper plan for the economy.
Indeed, there is no proper plan. That is according to you, but the government said they have a plan already, and then they have actually, putting it in place. Of course, we hope that once the ministers comes in, a lot of things will move faster than it is right now. Let's talk about talking about manufacturing.
Right.
One very big manufacturer in Nigeria is closing shop. GlaxoSmithKline. They've been in Nigeria for 51 years. They've announced that they are exiting Nigeria. What signal does this send to investors who are planning to come to Nigeria?
Well, it's very negative for GlaxoSmithKline to say they are leaving Nigeria. It's a very negative one. You recall that most of other one world just go to Ghana or country that have a stable electricity and
stable policies.
Stable policy, because our major problem is even policy some and sort. Now, the major problem they have now, because I read through what they said, is that, the dollar-naira relationship is the major problem. That they are going to give it to third party to run for them, because they cannot have a proper prediction. So we need to look at our policy and how long those policy because when I saw S&P analysis and I saw GlaxoSmithKline say they are going, there is a contradiction. When you are predicting a stable economy and financial what have you, one is saying no. After 51 years now, that we want to leave the same country. So I think Nigeria should do more, because if we don't attract foreign direct investment, we cannot move. Funny enough, if you don't create capital, you don't create savings, you don't have a capital. So they are looking at that. They find it difficult to even receive, get loans to really do what they are actually. So I think federal government need to do more by even doing more, because that's my only also problem with AFCTA, African Free Trade area.
Yes.
Because if you say you sign to this and you didn't select product that should come to Nigeria, our infant industry cannot grow. So I think Nigeria should have emergency on that manufacturing sector. So you know why? With good manufacturing sector, you have considerable employment, inflation will be stable, the economy will have more GDP and we can even compete. These are the things. So, but if you don't have good manufacturing sector, it's a problem. Look at what's happening in aviation too. They are saying that our own is most expensive. People decide to go to Cotonou before they can fly, because the ticket there is much cheaper.
But some are saying that it's because of the demand. The demand in Nigeria is higher. That is why the prices is a bit higher compared to.
If it is higher, it's a good one. Remember, people like Kenya, people like Ethiopia, I bought Rwanda Air. That's their major business. Why don't you take advantage of your own? That's where you have comparative advantage, because you have population. Once you have the population, you should have a considerable flights too. Encourage these aviation operators. Give them maybe single-digit loans and say buy more aircraft and whatever. So these are what it will create employment. It will also create, because if you look at this is also capital flight in the long run. People are taking what we're supposed to take advantage of, taking it to other country, and that's another problem. So we need to look more.
Indeed, but S&P did base their own rating based on the reform on ground, and on the fact that the government will be able to see it through. Because it's one thing to initiate reforms, it's another thing for you to be able to see those reforms through. I recall already there has been a kind of like Nigerians rejecting some of the plan reform based on the pains that it has caused them. But there's no pain without gain. We recall last week the NLC went on strike, and of course they were able to engage the government, and indeed they did suspended that strike. Now, do you think with the kind of reaction we're actually getting from Nigeria with regards to some of these reforms, government to have the appetite to see them through?
Well, I think I have cautious optimism for such things. I doubt if this government can actually do that. I assure you, within 2 months, government will need to come into Naira floating and make sure they cushion effect, maybe for oil and gas and for manufacturing sector, because they cannot, because now we are subjecting us to global market. So I and E now determine what happens to our Naira and dollar relationship. Also, our oil and gas, if today OPEC is reducing their production, by the time they reduce their production, what will simply happen? Oil will be, price will be increased. So while it's increased, we are not going to be profiting. I'm so sure you know. So we are going to be paying more in Nigeria. So imagine if oil move, if petrol move from 670 to 1,000 naira. Do you think Nigeria can bear it? It's pretty difficult. So for me, that's why I said, when President Tinubu gave that speech, do you know what I expect, please? I expect to say that tomorrow, 5,000 vehicle should start being converted to CNG. You know, about 7,000 has been converted. By next month, we'll have CNG station in FCT. I don't think we have one. By 2 months, this is what will happen. By next 2 months, we'll have Warri and maybe Warri and Kaduna finally working. By next 6 months, sir, that will have each state should go and have modular refinery, because we need results, not all this palliative. If you give us all this money, what will it reflect to? We still go to the same market. You still expect the same thing. Why not tame this problem? Because remember, 27% of the increment in petroleum is because of transportation. So if it removes 27% from 617, it will come down to like 400 and something. If you now produce locally, that means we buy like 300, 250, you know, and that will be a goal. So I want a lasting solution, not solution that is temporary. If you give 75 billion to 75 company now, it will take them time. It's not easy to return that money in one year. So a lot of things need to put in place. A lot of things.
Indeed, you're talking about timeline. The president did give timeline. He said between this month of August to I think March
24 is quite a long time for things to happen. I must tell you that a lot of business are dying.
But the government is being realistic, isn't it?
No. I think we need an immediate solution, because when you say a bus is coming between now and March, do you know what it simply means? It simply means it can start by January. We can start seeing by January. So what would have happened for the next 6 months? So we want an immediate timeline. So the timeline also have to do with, you know, it takes NLC and TUC to ask President, when will our refinery come on board? That is when he now told them that it's going to come up in December. It is not part of his speech itself. Remember, Nigeria as a country, we love hope. Nigeria is a country that loves hope. So when you give up hope that next 2 months this is what will happen, next 3 months this is what will happen, next one, we will now fold our hand and say, President said we should be here. We think, but now, March 24, we don't want to see something practical, pragmatic happening. If not...
Another areas again that the S&P did mention is that of cutting the cost of governance. The political class are still indeed feeding fat on the economy. What do you make of that? The National Assembly recently, 70 billion was appropriated for them as a way of palliatives, while about 40 billion or thereabouts for vehicles.
Right. That's about 110 billion on its own. And let me look at political economy now. Now we are saying that Labour Party is coming to really, why are they there without even saying, no, for we don't want this, we want that. So what I think is that if you look at this minister too, I think we have 47 ministers, and Buhari last minister was 44 or thereabout. So now if we are having this, remember each minister will have to have his Prado Jeep and 2 convoy, about 9 people to assist him. Now that simply means this government is not trying to reduce cost of governance. So now Nigeria is sacrificing everything now. You know, we are paying more for fuel, for oil now. We are sacrificing. So what is the president and his people are sacrificing? And I think the best person, the best sector, or the best arm of government that can call president to order is legislature. And now they are also feeding fast why Nigerians are. So I think they need to look at that. I was even thinking they're going to reduce the ministry, you know, not knowing that, because from what it is now, the ministry is going to be increase. And it seems that they need to just compensate their people, because that's what it simply means. Because you can see that some people are not even there before, they have to now add them. Now, in as much as we want them to perform, we don't want them to be inconvenient. That's quite, because I saw an argument that said that most of those ministries have those vehicles already, but I know Nigerian, most of them must have go with it, and some of them must have, even most the new people will also say no, we want a new vehicle to use. If they can maximize and use what is on ground already, I think that will be fine. And it will be also to the president to determine that. But I will want to encourage Mr. President to make sure that they reduce these expenses and make sure they focus on Nigerians. It's quite, it's demanding, is what we actually need.
Indeed, it's demanding. Now, there's also talk about palliatives, right, which we are actually talking about. And there are immediate one, and of course, there is a long-term one. None has, indeed, as it is now, been released to Nigeria, except the grain that we were told has been released to farmers. We can't really immediately confirm whether farmers have really received that or thereabout. Now, with the current pain that Nigerians are going through and the assurances that the government has given us, don't you think for the benefit of Nigeria, like the president said, let's bite the bullet once for the future of our economy, don't you think we should be a little bit patient?
Well, in as much as President Tinubu palliative look very beautiful, I have issue with the operationalization of the palliative. Recall that the immediate past government have what we call an SIP, where we have Empower, we have Jeep, we have Anchor, we know a lot of things. How is the effect? Remember, Jonathan also have subsidy remover, you win. What has it? So my challenge with this one is that it's not structured. Remember those poverty reduction program of Buhari was under NSIP. The other one for Tinubu. So on what? Who is anchoring this one? So I want him to come up with, this is the agency that will be anchoring this. Absolutely. That will be anchoring this. That will be anchoring that. Because I remember for Jonathan it was Ministry of Finance. For Buhari it was the humanitarian and disaster management. So he's going to anchor this. So it still look empty. So there's a little of thought still need to come into it.
Well, since the new ministries are going to be created, we probably will see where that one is going to fall into. Right. Leo, Elias, economist, I must thank you for your time on Business Daily today. We appreciate your contributions.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, with that is a wrap on the show today. Join us tomorrow for more. I am Yusuf Akugu.